It's time, Cougar Nation. Cougar Tracks. The best season analysis with BYU insider Mitch Harper on KSL NewsRadio and on video every day on the YouTube page for KSL Sports.
Welcome into Cougar Tracks here on the KSL Sports YouTube and KSL NewsRadio. I am your BYU insider, Mitch Harper. It's a fantastic Monday as the Cougs are 5-0 and rising in the AP Top 25. And that's our top story of the day.
The top story of the day. The biggest story in the world of BYU sports right here on Cougar Tracks.
After taking down West Virginia 38-24, BYU is now number 18 in the AP Top 25 poll. The Cougars moved up 5 spots in the latest rankings. I think it helped that teams like Penn State and Texas had disastrous losses over the weekend. So teams naturally climbed, and then some of those middle-range teams, they lost. So BYU moves up, and it begs the question, is BYU the 18th best team in the country? It's hard to gauge. But I do believe that BYU is worthy of this spot. And you think about it, too. And I like to focus solely on this season, but when you do look at last year, and that's why I always thought it was crazy that the pollsters were not giving BYU credit this season. Since last year, when last season started, the Cougars are 16-2 since the start of 2024. They are winning at such a high level right now. Now, sure, there's questions about this team still. How tough has the schedule been? It hasn't been that difficult. What should we learn about the Colorado win where they barely escaped Boulder? The thing I will say about BYU to this point, they have handled business throughout this season. And they are worthy of being this number 18 team. I will say that the injuries to Jack Kelly, Isaiah Glasker, definitely concerning for BYU. Those guys, how long they're going to be out, if at all, we'll see what ends up being the case there with Jack and Isaiah. But that can alter potentially the outlook of this team. But as I said in the preseason, this team has a lot of depth at linebacker, and now you're going to have to turn to that depth if those guys are out for extended periods of time. But I thought it was significant that BYU actually took a jump, a sizable jump of 5 spots in the AP Top 25. The Big 12 teams ranked this week. Texas Tech, number 9. BYU, the second highest ranked Big 12 team at 18. Arizona State at 21. And then Iowa State at 22. Honestly, I think probably TCU, Utah, Cincinnati all have a claim to be in those rankings as well. Personally, I think they have a great argument to be in the rankings, but Cougs are sitting nicely at that number 18 spot with everything still in front of them. I do want to kind of close the book on BYU's win over West Virginia, which took place Friday night, and I hope all of you had a fantastic General Conference weekend, a weekend free of BYU football, I guess. It was nice to watch some other games around the Big 12, enjoy my kids' sporting events. It was a lot of fun. But BYU gets the win, 38-24. Some of the final numbers in the game, BYU, 516 total yards, 291 for West Virginia. You look at that on the surface and think, oh, you gave up 24 points to a team that's just been struggling. Again, I look at that with some context. 2 of those touchdowns were basically gift wrapped to West Virginia. Self-inflicted wounds by BYU's offense. They have to clean that up. And then that late touchdown, which was definitely a point of frustration for Kalani Sitake.
Got the win and did some really good things. Obviously, I'm a little frustrated about some of the things that we didn't do well, but I think winning, I told the team winning's hard, and so you have to celebrate it. But I can't wait to get to work on finding ways to improve as a team. So I had to do a better job as head coach, making sure these guys play complete 60 minutes. But the guys didn't give up, and the grit, the determination is there. We should keep building on it.
You can tell that Kalani was not thrilled with that performance on Friday night. He just wasn't. You enjoy the win. You appreciate the win. I don't think it's suddenly, BYU's been exposed moment like some would be led to believe. This is still a sound football team, and in large part because of Bear Bachmeier. We'll get to Bear a little bit later here in the show, who once again named Big 12 Freshman of the Week for the third time this season. This team just needs to play complete football for a full 60 minutes. It's tough to ask, but I just thought that they sometimes play down to their competition against West Virginia. I thought BYU did a sound job stopping the run with Wilkins. Yes, he got 89 yards, but that was on 23 carries. And BYU's defense late in the game was the reserves, as you heard from Kalani Sitake. They got some yardage there. By all accounts, I think BYU was pretty much in cruise control in this game. It never felt like BYU was going to lose this contest. It just had a weird feel when you pair up the injuries, you pair up the strange turnovers, some of the decisions. It made for a weird night where BYU didn't play clean. But was BYU ever stressed? Was BYU ever on upset watch? No, they weren't. They were never once on upset watch in this game. And BYU, though, I think that they've got to continue to get better every single week. I thought that the defensive line stepped up this past weekend. That was an area where I wanted to see improvement from BYU. I thought John Taumaipeau was outstanding. He was one of the highest graded defensive tackles in college football over the weekend. He was the highest graded player for BYU in that win over West Virginia. Tanner Wall, we've talked about him in the past. I actually thought he was going to have a big game against West Virginia coming into the matchup. I said it on the sibling station, KSL Sports Zone, with JJ and Alex. Tanner Wall just makes plays for BYU. I thought he had an excellent game. Trey Alexander had his first career interception, which is exciting for BYU to have him have that breakthrough moment. And what a great interview press conference he is. Just matter of fact, very confident, but also understands the task in front of this team. Again, it was just a sound win. I don't think it's something that you look at and say, oh my gosh, BYU is going to get exposed. We all knew the competition was going to start leveling up around this Arizona-Utah game. You had to just get through this stretch. You're still perfect 5-0. Second consecutive year you've gotten to 5-0, which is impressive as a Big 12 member. 4 out of the last 6 years, BYU is starting seasons at 5-0. Pretty impressive when you consider the history of BYU football is typically a slow starting program. BYU's in a good spot. And there's so much to adjust and improve for this team coming out of a 14-point win. I think just the biggest thing for the Cougars going forward is the health of the linebackers. You've got to have those guys in a good spot. Isaiah Glasker, the TV broadcast said it was precautionary. Kalani Sitake said that Glasker wanted to come back in. He did on kick team, but still, where's his health at? Remember, he was on the availability report going into the matchup. He ended up playing, and then Jack suffered what looked to be an arm or shoulder. We'll get more information this week on Kelly throughout the week, but that to me is the biggest concern. But all in all, sound victory for BYU. Once again, an electric atmosphere at LaVell Edwards Stadium, another sold-out crowd. You saw the governor of Utah, Spencer J. Cox. He was handing out ice cream in the end zone. Just an eventful night once again. Cosmos jumping over fire. It's just a typical night in Provo where everything is on point and Cougar fans are energized and hyped up. They were excited as can be for another night of BYU football in Provo because it had been a month since the previous home game when they faced Stanford. There'll be a quick turnaround for the next home game when BYU hosts Utah, which is coming up on October 18th. And we actually got a kick time earlier today for that game. BYU and Utah, October 18th, will kick off at 6 p.m. on Network Fox and KSL NewsRadio. Pre-game will begin at noon with Cougar Sports Saturday. So that's going to be an eventful day on October 18th. But of course, this week the focus is on the Arizona Wildcats. And let's take a break. We'll get to the Cougar Stock Report coming up a little bit later. It's Cougar Tracks powered by KSL Sports. BYU basketball got a huge commitment over the weekend. Welcome back into Cougar Tracks here on the KSL Sports YouTube and KSL News Radio. I'm your BYU insider, Mitch Harper. KJ Perry commits to BYU basketball, the #1 junior college recruit in America. Class of 2026 out of Citrus College, KJ Perry is a Coug. And it's once again another recruiting cycle where BYU has a #1 prospect. In the 2024 cycle, it was the #1 European recruit in Yegor Demin. The 2025 cycle, it was the #1 high school recruit in AJ DiBonsa. And now for the 2026 cycle, it's KJ Perry, the #1 junior college prospect. Big time addition for BYU. 6'3", bouncy guard, got a lot of ability. He's explosive. He plays at a great pace to his game. This guy's a bucket getter, and if you assume that Rob Wright does his thing this year at BYU with DiBonsa, KJ Perry could be the replacement to Rob Wright, potentially. What's exciting is that Perry, who's got 3 years of eligibility remaining, 4 years to play 3, he's going to enroll at BYU at the winter semester, redshirt for this season, be around the program, kind of like what Hadim Mbop did this past year, coming from the NBA Academy and Utah Prep. He joined at mid-year and then redshirted. Perry will redshirt and then have 3 years of eligibility remaining in his college basketball career. He was once a Cal State Northridge commit, then he pivoted to the JUCO route, which honestly I think is a great move for prospects. Mid-majors, JUCOs, I think that's the move. If you're not a top 50 recruit, top 75 recruit, don't go to a power conference team. Go to a JUCO, go to a mid-major, bet on yourself, and then level up and get the big payday that way. And KJ Perry bet on himself, went JUCO, stayed nearby his hometown, and he tears it up. And during the live period in July, BYU offered him, and his recruitment blew up. He picked BYU over the likes of TCU, SMU, USC, had offers from Kansas, Arizona State, Cincinnati, UNLV, some great basketball programs, Oregon. He picks BYU. So KJ Perry is a Coug, and you look at this 2026 recruiting class for BYU with signing day coming up next month. BYU's got 3 commitments with Perry, Dean Rickert from Timpview, who's going to join the program next April, and then Will Openshaw from Timpview, a big man. He'll join the program after he serves a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But Perry's a bucket. Last season, he had 8 games, more than 20 points in a given game in his first year in junior college basketball. He had 1 game where he scored more than 48, or he scored 48 points, which tied a Citrus College program record. And then he also had 14 made field goals in that game last December. So Perry can fill it up. One of the things, too, that's cool about Perry, watching some of his content over the past few weeks and months, Perry, he had a video with the Bucket Squad guys. I don't think it was Jesser. And if you're not familiar with this, the Bucket Squad is, Bowie. I believe it's Bowie. He was on one of those videos. Bucket Squad, I actually find myself watching those. My son loves the Bucket Squad and Jesser, my oldest son. He gets the shorts and everything. But when he's watching those videos, I find myself watching them too. And then I find out one of the videos we were watching, I'm like, this was a few weeks back. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's KJ Perry, the guy BYU's recruiting. But it was like a pickup game for $1,000 worth of Bucket Squad gear, and I think KJ Perry's team won. Anyway, Perry is a big-time prospect, and I think he's going to be really good and a good fit for what Kevin Young wants on the guard line. And again, if BYU does what they should do with Rob Wright, if he's as talented as we would expect, and I think Rob Wright is going to be brilliant this year for BYU, that would lead me to think he's going to be in a position to go to the NBA. So he goes to the NBA, that leaves an opening. KJ Perry steps in as kind of that combo guard. He could play the point. He could play shooting guard. again, things are positionless with Kevin Young. You don't want to get into you're this position, you're that. Like we could see AJ DeBonsa this year playing the point guard position for BYU. It's not out of the realm of possibility. So Perry's dynamic, though, and I just think that he gives you a nice pipeline. And when you kind of look way too early, and again, this is incredibly early, and this might be a fool's gold thing to do with how college basketball is structured, because there's so much player movement, and to do something like this would just be naive. And I'm sure no one around BYU is doing this because with the portal, things can change, and you just can't assume everyone's just running it back. But if a lot of the guys that do have eligibility after this year do return, and I'm not talking about DeBonsa, I'm penciling him in for the NBA. I'm going to say Rob Wright to the NBA. Maybe he could come back. We'll see. But you'd have guys like Tyler Murruss, Kennard Moo Davis, Brody Kozlowski, Hadim Mbop, Dominic Diomande, Xavion Staten, Alexei Kostic, Dean Rickert, KJ Perry, Brooks Barr's on a mission currently. He was a former Mark Pope signee, so we'll see what happens there. But a nice base, nice group of players to work with, guys that will get elevated roles. Rickert could be the next Richie Saunders. Staten could be the elite shot blocker and be that starting five for BYU in the future. You know, Staten's going to be interesting this year because you look at his size and his length and his upside and potential and how much room to evolve in his game he has. The minutes that he has, he'll be fascinating, I think, for scouts potentially too. But there's a nice core of players if they decide to, run it back another year, some of these guys, and come back to BYU. That's a nice grouping of personnel to work with for the Cougars. So good pieces in place for BYU basketball. Let's take our final break. It's the Cougar Stock Exchange coming up next here on Cougar Tracks. Welcome back into Cougar Tracks here on the KSL Sports YouTube and KSL News Radio, your legacy home of the Cougars. On Mondays, we do this every single week on the program.
The Cougar Stock Exchange. What's trending up and what's trending down? It's the Cougar Stock Exchange.
That's right. It's the Cougar Stock Exchange, trending up and trending down in the world of BYU football. We do this every single Monday. And on the heels of a 38-24 victory over West Virginia, Cougs are riding high at 5-0, number 18 in the AP Top 25 poll. How can you not say trending up is Bear Bachmeier and this BYU offense? Because what we saw on Friday is the ability to pass the ball deep, stretch the field. There's now data, there's now video evidence consistently to show that BYU's passing attack is not something that you can just sleep on, because there's been so much effort into stopping LJ Martin and the ground attack for these opposing teams. They basically said, hey, stack the box, force Bear Bachmeier to beat you. And Bear Bachmeier showed he will beat you. Now, some of it was yards after the catch. In the second half, that 85-yarder from Bear to Chase. Chase was taking it, and he got tracked down. He's going to want that one back forever, right? But that arm strength that you just saw on that play, we'll play it one more time here. Bear's got he's got some juice in that arm, man. He can take it downfield. And Aaron Roderick made it a point of emphasis to stretch the field and put that on film and go on attack and be the BYU offense that I think everyone kind of envisioned this to be. When you think of Aaron Roderick, when you think of BYU, you think of stretching the field. And when he talks about his quarterbacks, that's always kind of in the DNA of these guys. And he has said consistently that Bear can do anything that the quarterbacks he's coached at BYU have done in the past. And Bear, that is significant, that just confidence builder. He's getting better every single game. Even though, yes, he had a pick. Yes, he had a backwards pass that got batted down and West Virginia took over on the 3-yard line. Then it was the 1. Still, BYU with Bear Bachmeier, he is getting better every single week. And that's noteworthy, too, when it coincides with maybe a piece that's trending down, and that's the linebacker position, because Glasker, Kelly, what's their health status? With those two guys, if they are out for extended periods of time, that is a game changer for BYU. And Kalani was optimistic about Jack coming out of that game. Still, though, that's the initial read. Now that there's been a full weekend, we'll get more information this weekend. I am excited, though, about Ace Kafusi. Ace Kafusi, I thought, was one of the stars of fall camp. Really good player. I just think that that position trends down a little bit because Jack Kelly goes beyond the linebacker position. Jack Kelly was an edge rusher. He was a defensive end. He could do so many different things in this defense that if he's out for an extended period of time, you don't have anyone else that does that like he does. He's so versatile in this defense, and he knows it inside and out that you just don't have anyone that can replicate that. But I do believe that Ace Kafusi will be a stud for BYU. We also saw Miles Hall. We saw Max Alford. We saw a lot of different guys get opportunities in this game, especially in the second half, because Isaiah Glasker was held out of that game in the second half. So that area is probably trending down just because of how much respect you have for Kelly and Glasker and how good they are as a tandem. Another guy that's trending up is Chase Roberts. Chase Roberts, career-high receiving yards for the senior pass catcher out of American Fork. 4 catches, 161 yards, 98 yards after the catch. BYU as a team, 216 of Bear Bachmeier's 351 yards were yards after catch. These guys can scoot, man. And Roberts did a really good job. And ever since that Stanford game, I think he's continuing to get better as well. Now, there's been a few drops, but I think he's getting better. And that chemistry with Bear is clearly improving as the weeks go by. And that's so exciting for BYU because you still have, if you want to go all the factors of the stock report, steady LJ Martin, 21 carries, 90 yards. He got that late run to kind of inflate the numbers a little bit. 2 touchdowns for LJ. LJ is so good. There's so much attention zeroed in on him that it opens up the passing attack. You want to pick your poisons now? You want to defend the pass? Okay. What's going to open up LJ Martin? Because the offensive line, guys like Bruce Mitchell, I thought he played really good. I thought Isaiah Jada, Andrew Gentry played really good. Still a lot of rotation at guard with Safarachok, Sonny Makassini, Waylon Lapuaho. Austin Leausa played, even though he was questionable throughout the week. Then he got ultimately upgraded to probable and actually played in that game. So there's a lot of rotation there, but BYU's in a good position, I think, offensively going forward. I thought that was a turning point for BYU on the offensive side. Defensively, I still like where BYU's at personnel-wise. As far as the overall scheme, the talent, the coaching, it's just you got 2 stars that to be determined on their status going forward, and that's significant for this team. But the Cougs are now 5-0, number 18 in the AP Top 25, and they're getting ready to take on the Arizona Wildcats this Saturday in Tucson. Kickoff for that game in the desert, 6 p.m. at Arizona Stadium. First visit there since 2018. Kevin Sumlin era. First game, what was that? Khalil Tate on the Sports Illustrated cover, and BYU pulled off the upset. Fresh off a 4-9 season. We'll have more throughout the week on the Cougs and the Wildcats as they renew their second matchup as Big 12 foes. But we will be back tomorrow here on Cougar Tracks. Subscribe to the show. It's a daily show available to you on the KSL Sports YouTube and KSL News Radio, your legacy at home of the Cougars. Talk to you tomorrow.